Let's talk about dating abroad. Can you actually find love abroad? Now, I get asked this question a lot, and this was actually one of the reasons that I moved abroad, was to increase my opportunities for romance. So if you look at my other videos, I talk about how I moved abroad when I was 40 years old. I was healing from my divorce. I finally felt like I was ready to get out there again and start dating and find love. And so what I noticed was every time I would travel abroad, I was just getting way more attention from men, and I was getting asked out a lot more. And I just got me to thinking, like, okay, if I stay in the States, I don't think I'm even going to have an opportunity to have a chance at love. And that was really important to me, especially as a Black woman, because I feel like Black women, particularly in America, but also the globe over in many areas, just honestly get overlooked for love. It doesn't matter how educated you are. It doesn't matter how classy you are. It doesn't matter how skinny you are. We just face a certain amount of romantic segregation in the States. But when you leave the States, especially when you go to certain areas, it just feels like the doors open. And so I kind of want to talk about that, because I do feel like you can find love abroad, but you have to be strategic. So let's dive deep. So I'm going to circle back to my very first real experience. And that was in Italy. That's what made me really want to move abroad. So I met this gentleman. He was like half Turkish, half Italian. And he and I ran into each other, like literally bumped into each other on the street. He was like, ciao. And I was like, ciao. And it was just like this instant chemistry. It was just, it was out of a movie, y'all. Like, it was so amazing. And I didn't really think anything of it. Like, I felt the chemistry, but I don't know. I'm a very shy woman. Like, I'm very shy. For me to approach a man, oh my God, like that really would not happen. So I didn't say anything about it, but he was on my mind because that energy between us was just so juicy and oof. And I was just like, okay, whatever. So we went to our Airbnb, we checked into our Airbnb, and I want to say the next day, my friend and I were going out for gelato, and I bumped into him again. And I was like, okay, this is not a coincidence. We were meant to meet. Like, there's something to this. And so when he sees me, he's like, let me get your number and get your number locked in. So he got my number on WhatsApp, and we started communicating. And he and I began this most amazingly a beautiful electric like love affair. And for me, I was just like, oh my God, like I have been waiting to feel like this, because my heart was dead. Like, I talk about this in my book, The Black Girl's Guide to Being Blissfully Feminine, but I was in a sexless marriage. I was in a sexless marriage with a man who low-key hated me. And I was just like starving, like emotionally starving. And to come out of a sexless marriage and to heal from that, because, when you're in a sexless marriage, you're feeling, especially if you're the one who wants to have sex and your partner doesn't want to, it just messes with your self-esteem in a very particular kind of way. Because it's just like, am I desirable? Like, what's wrong with me? And it just messes with your head. So for me, I was just like, can I feel anything for anybody? Am I even attractive? Like, there were just so many things going on in my own mind with my own self-esteem. So when I got to Italy and I met him, it was just like, okay, yes, I am still a woman. My lady parts still work. Everything is okay. It just was like, I needed the right stimuli. That's just it. So he and I began this torrid love affair. And then, unfortunately, y'all, I'm not gonna lie, it ended because I found out he was getting married. He did not tell me. That's a whole nother story, but I guess maybe I could share it in this story too. But I found out that he was getting married. And when I did, my heart was like completely crushed. And it was with a Turkish woman. And he said that it was like, he was marrying her out of familial obligation and blah, blah, blah. Who knows if it was the truth or not, but I immediately was just like, I can't do this. I mean, the energy between us was beautiful. So of course I wanted to continue it, but I got high enough self-esteem that I don't want somebody else's man. I want my own man. So anyways, he ended up getting married. He called me, I want to say like 2 days after the wedding, crying, y'all, crying. And I just told him straight up, I was like, listen, you made your decision. You're a married man now. Do not contact me again. I'm so sorry that things ended up this way. Only the universe knows why, but it did, and that's that. So anyways, I had to let him go. But that entire situation, just like I said, it opened up this space in my heart where I was just like, okay, I can love again. And I'm in an environment where men are constantly coming up to me and asking me out. So when I was living in Italy, I was in no short of dates. Like I'm telling you, I had a day for breakfast. I had a day for lunch. I had a day for dinner. Like I dated so much that I was like, you know what? My dating life should have been like this through high school and college, but it wasn't. But that's because of colorism. And that probably is another story. But like I said, particularly for Black women in America, and this might be other places too, but particularly in the United States, I feel like we're under a lot of romantic segregation, or we experience a lot of romantic segregation. And because of that, you know, we're not getting asked out on dates the way a lot of other women are. You know, by the time a woman is, 25, a woman outside of our community is like 25, 30. She's already dated, had several different boyfriends and heartbreaks and all of these different things. Whereas for a lot of us, Black American women, we're going through some of this stuff like later on in life, especially if you are darker skinned. That is the caveat. So anyways, he opened up this door of just like, okay, this is where it's at for sure. And then of course I met other Black women that were also living abroad, and they confirmed like, yeah, girl, like over here is where it's at when you want to date. So I think when it comes to dating abroad, the one thing that I would say is, if you are a young woman, like honestly, if you're a young woman between the ages of 18, or I want to say like 19 and maybe like 25, 26 or something, and like you would like romance and you would like to eventually get married, or maybe not even married, but maybe you just want to have a long-term partner and romance in your life, start traveling abroad when you're young. That if I could go back in time, that's the one thing that I would do for sure. So I think first and foremost, I think it's okay to want to love and to be loved. And I think that it's okay to want to travel abroad to get that. I feel like in the States in particular, there is this attitude, there's something going on. There's this weird energy between men and women that's really off kilter. I honestly think that the toxic modern day feminist movement has something to do with that. But I just feel like men don't really want a relationship that much in the States. And a lot of the dating horror stories that I hear about in the States, not so much true in other parts of the world. Now, unfortunately, things are shifting a little bit, but I still feel like prospects for romance are better outside of the US than in the US, especially if you want a serious relationship with someone who is highly masculine, and also with someone who is more long-term thinking partner. So definitely have to say that. I think that there's a difference between escaping and expanding. And so I don't want anybody to think of international travel as it pertains to dating abroad as escaping anything. You're rather expanding your opportunities. And I feel like you should do that because the more opportunities you have, the better, right? And then again, particularly as an Afro-American woman, I think you have to expand your dating options. This whole idea that you need to just be in your box is going to keep you back. So I think that one of the things that you have to consider when you are dating abroad are cultural norms. So, like, what is the cultural norm for dating in the country that you are going to be in? Because, like, for some countries, like Spain, for example, where I'm living now, it's more common for women to approach men. And so men aren't really going to approach you. I have not really, I don't know. I haven't gotten used to that. And because, like I said, first and foremost, I'm really shy. I'm very shy. And I just don't see myself approaching a man like that. And it feels super unnatural for me. So I don't know if I would do that. I really feel like a man would need to approach me or at least give me some strong signals that it's okay to like at least come over and sit by him or something like that. Other than that, I wouldn't do that. But understanding the cultural nuances when it comes to romance is very key. So one of the things that I would do is like I would go into Facebook groups of different countries that I would be traveling to, and I would say, "Hey, ladies, let me know like what are some cultural nuances or differences you found out about the men here when it comes to dating, or how did the local women date usually?" And that could give me a good indicator as to how things would go, and also if it was a good fit for me. I've mentioned I'm a little bit more conservative than people probably realize. I'm more moderately conservative in a lot of areas. I'm liberal too in some areas, but I think I'm a little bit more on the traditional side. So I do, have certain standards and expectations when it comes to men that are a little bit more traditional. And for me, that's one reason why I found it better for me to date in more traditional cultures. So I feel like my best time dating was in Turkey because the values of the men there are just more in alignment with who I am as a woman. So it was just easy. And honestly, I vibe with Turkish men so well. I love the energy that I have with Turkish men. Even on a platonic level, it's just much, much better. So anyways, again, going back, you have to consider the cultural norms and nuances of where you're going to be. So next, you need to have standards, expectations, boundaries. And I believe that there's another YouTuber, Cynthia G. She says that a lot too, about having standards, expectations, and boundaries. So I believe that you need to apply that internationally. I don't care where you go on the planet, have your standards intact, your boundaries intact, and don't stray away from that. Having those kind of dating standards and boundaries and certain expectations of men is what is going to keep you safe out there. Because at the end of the day, men are men. There are scammers. There are not good people out there. And you want to keep yourself safe physically and emotionally. So make sure that you're dating with some level of standards. I meet a lot of women from all around the world, not just American women, that they have no boundaries or no standards. And then all they do is complain about the men. And in my mind, I'm like listening to them and I'm like, well, you did this, so what did you expect to happen? And unfortunately, like sometimes these are like women my age. And I'm just like, okay, you have learned nothing in your 40-something years of being on the planet, but whatever. Anyways, like I said, have your standards, expectations, and boundaries in place while you're dating globally. This is what's going to help to keep you safe while you are dating abroad. And speaking of, let's talk about safety. When you are dating abroad, you need to be safe Because yes, like I said, there are some bad people out here. And there are some men who will take advantage of the fact that you are a foreigner. So number one, I always say this to all the ladies. Do not ever say that you are traveling alone, even if it's true. Do not ever say that you live alone, even if it's true. As far as anybody knows, you are here with a group of people. You have local friends who live here and you're visiting them. You have a family friend that lives in the country that you're visiting. You are not alone, okay? You're never alone, even if you really are. Okay, so number two, make sure that if you go out on a date with someone, that somebody knows where you are and who you are with. When I was dating abroad, I would send a picture of the man that I'm dating, like multiple pictures, and I would say, listen, I'm going out with this man. This is his name. This is his phone number on WhatsApp. And we're going to this location. And I always meet people in public too. That's another, I'll talk about that next. But always let somebody know who you're with and, where you're going to be going. Because, it's better for somebody to know and nothing happen than for something to happen and nobody knows where you are or who you're with. Yes, you're a big girl. Yes, you're grown. But guess what? Things happen to grown women every day. So be safe and make sure that people know. And I like to let, when my mom was alive, I would let her know who I was with. And then I would let a local friend know, like, hey, I'm going to be going out with this guy, tonight. This is where we're going to be going, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so that leads me to number three. Number three, make sure to send your live location to somebody, okay? Always send your live location to somebody. Say, okay, I'm going out on a date. I'm sending my live location to you so that somebody knows exactly where I am. And if the date is going bad, I'm going to excuse myself to go to the bathroom and I'm going to call you. As a safety precaution, I don't care where you are on the planet, you need to do that. It's just smart to do that. And these are the safety practices that I personally use when dating abroad. Next up, and that's number 4, is avoid going back to somebody's house that you don't know. I mean, honestly, if you want to do, what you do, your body, your choice. You know what I'm saying? If you get down like that on the first date, fine. But I say do it at a hotel or something. Do not go back to someone's residence. Do not bring somebody back to your house because, listen, y'all, I have heard stories out here of men becoming stalkers. And then the woman's like, oh my God, he knows where I live now, blah, blah, blah. Or, or you hear worse. So do not make that your practice for safety's sake. Do not go back to the home of men that you just met, okay? Gonna keep you safe. This is kind of a bonus, but I have a piece of jewelry, which I don't have it on now, but it's called Invisaware. It works globally. And what it does, it's like a distress button, but it's hidden as a piece of jewelry. If you ever feel unsafe, you can double tap it and it will send your live location to up to three or 4 preset emergency contacts. That's also something good to have. And like I mentioned earlier, number 5, and that is, I believe we're on number 5 for safety anyways. Meet people in public. Meet people in public. That's the best way to stay safe. There were a few men, like when I was in Italy, there were a few men that I would let they pick me up in their cars, and in Turkey too. But this was only after I had gotten to know them. I had met up with them, a few times in public, and I felt like, okay, I feel like they're decent enough people that I can trust to get in their car. And even then, I would always manage to sneak a picture of their not driver's license, car tags, their car tag. And I would send it to my mom. I would send it to my sister. I send it to a friend. So everybody knew who I was going out with. their car tag, and they had my live location. So I was good to go. I think too, in terms of safety, you need to also have a video chat with them. So make sure that you have a video chat so that you can pick up the energy and the vibe of people. So I think that covers safety when dating abroad and your dating options and you finding dating abroad. So yeah. I really do think that it matters what country you are in when you are dating, because you need to take into consideration that while you're spreading your options open globally, you need to understand the cultural values, maybe predominant religions, family values of said culture that you are going to be in. If you are a super liberal woman and you are a feminist and you want to pay 50-50 and you don't want a man telling you what to do and you want to, you are not a traditional woman, why are you trying to date in a traditional country? Why? You're just going to be frustrated. You are just going to be frustrated. And then you're going to be spending all of your time complaining about the men when it's really not that. It's you're dating in the wrong country for you, the wrong culture for you. So the country you're dating in absolutely does matter in terms of making it easier. And so I think when you're opening up your dating options globally, you have to create the path of least resistance for yourself. So ask yourself those questions so that you have an easier time. And the same is true if you're more marriage-minded woman. If you're more marriage-minded woman, you're more traditional, then go to countries where men have more social pressure on them to get married. And, there are more expectations on men to be more traditional and pay for the bills and pay for dates and things like that. So that has been my rule of thumb, and that has made life a lot more easier for me. Do you know your attachment style? I think it's important to understand your attachment style. Like, are you anxious? Are you avoidant? Do you have a secure attachment style? And understanding how that plays out as of you being a foreigner in a country, because a lot of times as a foreign woman, you are going to get like a lot more attention. And so understanding this is important. Like, I have an anxious attachment style. And I will be honest with you, dating has always triggered me big time. And I oftentimes say that I wish I was part of a culture that had oh my goodness, like arranged marriages, because I never liked dating. And I hear a lot of dating gurus, they're like, if you don't like dating, you're doing it wrong. I never liked dating, period. Even when I was younger, I always wished I was from a culture where I had people who love me to be a part of the process and just find me a husband, because I just feel like Western style dating is so ghetto, but it just is what it is, because I'm not. But I have a very anxious attachment style that I know that I have because I was abandoned by my father when I was younger. And even though he and I developed a relationship later on in my early 20s and we tried to repair our relationship, it's still there to a certain extent. But I think understanding that is really important, because a lot of men out here in the world from certain cultures, they love bomb. They will love bomb you. Oh my God, they will love bomb you. And you have to understand your attachment style so that you can move through all of that, all the smoke and stuff, and see like if somebody really wants to be with you, and manage your emotions in between all the love bombing. Let's talk feminine magnetism while dating abroad and just your energy. I feel like living abroad brought out a certain element of my softness and femininity that just wasn't present in the States. First of all, I felt safe. I felt safe in my environment. I felt safe in my body. And because I feel like there are a lot of cultures where the men actually appreciate women a lot more, it opened up this window for me to just be ultra feminine. some women are scared to be ultra feminine because they don't feel safe. But I'm telling you, in environments where you do feel safe and comfortable enough to be ultra girly, ultra feminine, the men eat that up. And I love it. Like, I love the way men respond to my feminine energy. And in fact, that's probably one of the biggest compliments I've gotten while dating abroad was, wow, you are so feminine. I just love your energy. Like, you're so, it's alluring. So I think there's something to be said about being able to tap into your softness and be feminine and be girly and be playful and, you know, really dress up, which is another thing, because I feel like people in the States are way too casual. Although that casualness is kind of like slowly seeping out to other parts of the world. Not Walmart sloppy, but, you know, like it's like there are some people that are really casual. Anyways, with that being said, people dress up more. So for me, I never needed a reason to get dressed up, even in the States. But for me, more so, like, so just really putting that extra effort when I go someplace. Like, even today, I went grocery shopping. As you guys see, I had my nails done. I had my hair, cute little girly bow. I love wearing bodysuits because they're just really easy. So I had on my little boat neck bodysuit and a beautiful frilly skirt, which you can't see, but it matches. It's like a black and red frilly skirt. And I had on my high heels when I went grocery shopping. And I thought I looked cute. And I could see like men just looking like, okay, you know, she looks nice. I like that. But that's just my style. And I love that because the environment makes you want to do that. So if you battle with that, I say open the lid to that bottle and just let it out and unleash your feminine magnetism, because it will really serve you in a lot of environments, because a lot of these men are used to women being feminine and they really love feminine women. So yeah. Okay, next, let's talk about the red flags. Of course, like I said, there is no perfect man on this planet. So have those boundaries and your standards and look out for the red flags. A red flag is a red flag. I don't care if it's a red flag in Spanish, Italian, Turkish, Russian, Japanese, Korean. I don't care what language it comes in. A red flag is a red flag. And if a man drops a red flag early on, leave him in the dust. Do not play the desperate fallback girl while you are out of the country. Like, just do not do that, because I feel like as foreign women, you just are much more vulnerable. So do not do that. And I have seen, like I said, some women put themselves in some really crazy, difficult situations because they have no boundaries or expectations. Like, I'm in some of the Facebook groups, and some of the things that I am reading and hearing, I'm just like, girl, ain't no way. Not at this big age. Ain't no way I would let a man treat me like that. That's like some, like, you know, naive teenager type behavior where you let, you know, when you're naive and you're young and you just don't know about men, and maybe you have like a couple, you know, that one or two relationships where somebody was treating you crazy. But like, when you get on up there, you need to be learning those life lessons, having those standards and boundaries, get your self-esteem up. And when they drop that red flag, you leave immediately. And I want to say this about red flags. I mentioned earlier, like, a lot of men from a lot of different cultures love bomb. And you can get sucked up into that so quickly, especially if you never had a lot of attention from men. So, you know, men, oh, child, bad, you're so beautiful. You're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen, blah, 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 blah. Okay, that's nice. That love bombing don't even faze me no more, because I've lived on this side of the world so much and I've had so many men love bomb me. I literally don't care. What I care about is follow-up actions. What are you doing that shows me you really like me? So making sure that the man is still taking you on proper dates, that you are meeting his friend circle in a relatively decent amount of time, that you are meeting his family. Because in certain cultures, like Italian culture, if you've been dating for a while and he hasn't introduced you to his family, he ain't serious about you. Because Italians are very protective with their families. Like they don't just invite anybody to meet their family. So if he has introduced you to his family, everybody knows like, oh, okay, you all are actually a couple. Because an Italian man is not about to introduce you to his family, and he's not serious. And the same goes for a lot of men around the world. So make sure that you are not being the fallback girl. Make sure that he doesn't have some other fiance, or family in some other country. Like, you don't want those things, you know? So you have to like pull back from the love bombing and really focus in on his action and his intention. So yeah, let's talk about where can you find the fellas, because I think that's key. I mean, I think you can find men anywhere and everywhere. A lot of people use apps, but I'll be quite honest with you. At this point, I'm just so tired of dating apps. I deleted my profile and I don't anticipate getting on any apps anytime soon. I have had some friends who had some amazing success on apps, even as of recently, and they kind of gave me a little bit of more hope, like, maybe I would. But there are so many different ways to meet men. And I mean, you can obviously meet men by building relationships and friend circles in your neighborhoods if you're living abroad, and also by joining different organizations. The only apps that I personally would use at this point would be networking apps like Internations, Meetup.com app, Time Left app is another good one, because these allow you to meet people on an app, but it's not centered on dating. It's centered on activities and networking. So I feel like when you do, meet men, it's more organic. Also, going out dancing. Like, I've started learning how to West Coast swing. Next year, I would like to learn how to play golf. And so I'm just expanding like my activities over here and my social circle. I'm going to be joining the Rotary Club here in my area. And those are some really nice ways to expand your, like I said, your social circle, and to get to meet the types of men that you want to meet in a more organic way. So the men are definitely out here. And the one thing that I can say is I feel like the men outside of the US are just more involved in a lot more variety of activities. I feel like the men out here are more involved in a lot more activities, and somehow that makes them, I don't know, more interesting and easier to get to know. I think that's the proper word. Anyways, the last thing that I want to touch on is just self-love, and that not feeling like a failure if you haven't met your special someone. I think for me, that's, if I'm being very candid with you, that's one of the most, I think, difficult things that I had to reckon with, because I felt like, I don't think I'm an unattractive woman. I feel like I have a lot of things going on for myself. Also, I'm a divorced mom, and I'll have to talk, I didn't really talk about that in this video. Maybe I will talk about that after this. But, it's one of those things where I beat myself up. Like, I'm a failure because, all of my dating didn't yield in a relationship, or in marriage, actually, because I had some relationships, didn't yield in marriage. And then I had to take a step back and look at a lot of things. Like, okay, why did you end some of those relationships? Were you really into those men, or were you settling? Like, there were a lot of questions that I asked myself, and I had to work through the fact that no, I'm not a failure in life just because I didn't get married. And I had to reshift my energy to understand that I am the prize as a woman, because what women bring to men's lives, especially when you're a good woman that's intentional, that's focused on loving and nurturing, is priceless. So, I want you to know that if you've been dating for a while, or if you start dating and it doesn't yield the type of outcome that you want, that you don't feel like a failure. Now, let me circle back to this because I didn't. This is about dating as a divorced mom or a single mom. So I have my daughter. My daughter is disabled. I kind of stuck, especially when I moved to Turkey in particular. I was dating divorced dads. That was my thing. The reason why is because prior to that, I was dating in other parts of Europe, and a lot of the European men do not have children, or they have not been married. And it's quite common to find men who are like in their 40s and 50s and they've never been married. They don't have any kids. And I'm going to be honest, this is no shade to anybody that does not have children or kids, but there is a certain, I want to say, lack of maturity in people who reach a certain age and they have not been married or have kids. It just is what it is. I don't judge it as good or bad necessarily, but it just is what it is. Because when you have lived a life where you have a certain amount of responsibility, especially if you're a mother and or a father and you're responsible for other human beings, that responsibility just adds a lot to you in terms of your maturity level and your priorities in life. So when I was dating a lot of men who had never been married, never shared a house with a woman, never had any kids, I could see where they were lacking as men, and it just turned me off. I was like, I don't even want to deal with this. For real, I don't. So when I got to Turkey, I was like, ooh, okay. These are men. Like, these are men. These are men who have been raised to take care of women and children. Most of them get married before the age of 30. So the ones that I was dating that were divorced, they already had kids. They already been married. And so dating me was just like, okay, cool. Oh, you're a divorced mom. Okay, cool. Because guess what? The divorced dads in Turkey were worried that they wouldn't find a woman that would accept them being divorced dad. I know, it's so perfect, right? Like, I feel like there's a lot of stigma in the States on being a single mom or a divorced mom. And because of their culture and divorce being taboo, the divorced men over there that are fathers are like concerned that they won't find a woman that's going to accept them and their kid. So I dated a lot of divorced dads. And I would have to say overall, it was a really great experience. Like I said, I was engaged to a divorced dad. And things started out really great between he and I up until, I want to say, there were a few things that happened and he just wasn't willing to have conversations about them. And that for me was just a huge red flag, because I was like, listen, if we can't talk about this, like, imagine if something really serious happens. Like, what's going to happen? And since I already been married, I really didn't want to go through that. So I cut it off. And it was sad. It was sad. We even tried again. And yeah. A very big disappointment in my life. I'm not going to lie. A very big disappointment, because he was very masculine and he added the masculine energy in my life that I really needed, especially after my mom passed away. But like I said, dating those divorced dads, yeah, that's tea for real. So I kind of already knew that that's what was going to be my go-to because of the type of more conservative environment Turkey has, where divorce is more taboo. Like, people have just started, like during COVID, it's when a lot of couples started getting divorced, and there was like this huge wave of divorce in the country for the first time. So this whole concept of dating as a divorced dad is like completely new thing for them. And I was happy that I was there to kind of take advantage of that situation in many ways, and date some gentlemen who treated me very well, I would have to say, for the most part. I only met like maybe like 2 crazies, but outside of that, I would say pretty decent guys, but it didn't work out for one reason or another. But anyways, I don't want this video to be super long, so I'm gonna, close it down here. But I would love to know, like, what you think about this video. That's number 1. 2, have you been dating abroad? What has been your experience? Let me know in the comments. And then make sure to subscribe, like this video, share this video, save this video, drop this into some groups, because I would love to hear the opinions of other women living abroad. And then also, if you want to connect with me, click the link in my bio to see the various ways that you can connect with me, including booking a consultation to start your live abroad journey. And then if you are a Black woman living, loving, and traveling abroad, be sure to get a copy of my book, The Black Girl's Guide to Living, Loving, and Traveling Abroad. It talks about my experience and is jam-packed full of information on how to start your global journey so you can live your own soft girl dream life internationally. Peace.